Today I'll walk you through on how to create a Ubuntu Linux droplet, and on that droplet we'll install Nginx to serve our web page. Then we'll proceed with cloning the repo, which already has all the necessary stuff to produce the web page. Then we'll need to install PHP because obviously the server side is using PHP. Then we'll install MySQL, for which we'll need to create a database, and I already have the SQL files prepared. And then we'll grant permission to the users who are going to access that database. Third bullet point, we're going to assign a DNS, which I've already reserved to the droplet IP address. So when we type in the name, instead of the IP address, we'll immediately get our thing served from Nginx. And then we'll proceed with configuring HTTPS so that we can secure our end-to-end traffic. We'll use certbot dependency for that. And in the end, we'll see if everything works fine. So we'll just test our PPIs for life domain. So I'll click here on droplets. You can click on the left menu bar as well. Select whichever region you're comfortable with. And then we'll be using the Ubuntu Linux image. The version is the latest one. And then we'll have the basic type, but I will not be choosing the one with the lowest price because of the memory size. So I need at least 1 gig to install all of my dependencies correctly. So we'll choose the $6 one. And then instead of the SSH key, I'll just go with the password option. Of course, this is a little bit more insecure, but for this purpose, it'll be enough. I'll just create a simple password. Now I'll just click on create droplet. We've got the droplet running. So how can we test that? Obviously, we're going to open the console, enable the password authentication, and I'll just use ChatGPT. Enable password authentication for DigitalOcean droplet. Okay, as you can see, this screen pops up, and I'll just try to find the password authentication. You see it's set to no, but we want to set it to yes. Okay, yes. I'll log into our remote instance via SSH. So for that, I'll be using the SSH username, monkey sign, and the IP address. Once you execute that, you have to provide your password. And we have successfully logged in onto our remote instance. We've created the droplet successfully. Now we need to install Nginx. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's use ChatGPT to help us out. Please install Nginx on the Linux Ubuntu instance. Give me the commands. So what we're going to do now, execute this command first. Then we're going to actually install the Nginx. Okay, let's just click OK here. And now let us actually start the Nginx instance. So after installing, we need to start it, of course. Okay, and now let's see the status of it. So okay, well, before that, I'll need to enable it. So just follow the ChatGPT, whatever it produced. And now we want to check the status, if it's indeed running. It is. First, I just want to show you where we'll actually place, where we need to install the folder, which will come from GitHub. So if you navigate to cd var www, and then Nginx, sorry, not Nginx, HTML. So as you can see, this is the file which Nginx serves now. the HTML file. So at this path, we want to place our HTML file. So if I just type in the web address, the IP address, you should see that it's already working. So the Nginx already has a default HTML file which it's serving. So we want to obviously delete that, and we'll just go back. We're just gonna remove the HTML file, and now we've got an empty www directory. So we want to go to my Agents Unit GitHub. And as you can see, there is this PPIs for Live web platform, which we want to clone, right? So again, well, we don't need anything. It's public. Anyone can clone it. So it should just work if we do a git clone. Let me just specify the git clone command. And bear in mind, guys, that git comes in with the Linux Ubuntu image. So you don't need to install that additionally. So now it's being cloned. It has cloned successfully. Now let's see what we have here. We've got PPIs for live, but Nginx file currently looks at the HTML directory. So we want to move PPIs for live to HTML. So we want to rename that, right? So we've got this HTML, and now if we navigate inside of it, you should see there is an index.html file, which again our conf is looking into, and this means that something else will be served here. Let's check it out. And voila, we've got a web page served, but as you can see, there is no data coming from the database because we haven't set it up yet. Okay, let's install now PHP 7.4. So for that, we'll ask ChatGPT to do that for us. Please install PHP 7.4 for the Linux Ubuntu instance. Well, let's see which commands do we need for that. Let's run these commands first, and then we'll run the main command. Let me copy and paste this one, and later we'll just install some additional 7.4 dependencies which we might need. Let me pick up the rest of the dependencies. It's taking some time to download these. Now let's finally run the other. Let's install the other dependencies. Let's proceed with installing MySQL. So I'll type here, please install MySQL stable version for Linux Ubuntu. We'll just use this command, which will get us MySQL server to this drop. Let's start the MySQL after it installs. Again, if this window pops up, just click enter. Now we should get back to the command line, execution, yep. So start MySQL. Now let's enable this thing so that it starts on boot every time once we reboot the server. Okay, and let's check the status of the MySQL server. As you can see, it's active and running. Now we're gonna add two databases to our system. So as you can see, we've got the dump files over here, but first we need to create the databases. So I'll just type in MySQL, and I'll just specify the show databases command to see what's there. So as you can see, we don't have PPIs input nor PPIs for live, which we need. So I'll just type in create database PPIs for live, semicolon, and now create database PPI underscore input, semicolon. Okay. If I type in now show databases, you can see that they are here. I'll exit this mode, and I'll just populate those databases using those dump files. So MySQL, I need to specify the database name for live, and we are in the correct directory, so I'll just say PPIs for live SQL. Now it's executing, and we're going to do the same thing for PPI input. Okay, if I go into MySQL, show databases, use PPIs for live. Okay, and if I type in show tables, you can see that the tables over here. Okay, we've still got problems. The reason being is we can see this PHP code over here on the client side, which means that we haven't installed something correctly. And the problem is we haven't installed PHP FPM. As you can see over here, if I type in, let's just sudo cd to the sites available, and yeah, we need to sudo then default to see what this file consists of. You can see we first time entering this Nginx configuration, and now what we need to do is, instead of this, we're just gonna copy and paste. So let's do this. We don't need to format it, we'll just write quit, and let us restart Nginx, actually reload it. Okay, no errors now. Let's see if this runs. Now we've got another error. So access denied for Francesco localhost. So that means that we need to grant permission to that user. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna ask ChatGPT, okay, please grant permission for username Francesco and password. We're gonna check the password. It's exposed over here. So we're gonna find the config. I'm gonna go into MySQL. Nope, that's for live. And let me search for config. I've got it over here. It's Eugene1234. So let's specify that. Okay, it's specifying something. So we're gonna use this command. We need to create the user, and we need to grant privileges to that user. So let's create a user first. Let's go into MySQL now here. Okay, we are inside, so we can execute MySQL commands. So let me create this. We've created a user, and now specify the database name. So the database name is PPIs for live. Let's do this, and let's now try and refresh the stuff to see if it works. Okay, as you can see, we've successfully entered. We've provided the correct credentials according to this file over here, and now obviously we can connect to MySQL, and the PHP files which contain the SQL statements execute successfully. Now we're going to add the domain name to our droplet. We're going to associate those. So first go to networking on the left panel, you can see it. Then click on domains. And then as you can see, I've already created my domain, but what you will do is type whatever your domain is. I'll just type something randomly here. And then after you create the domain, you should see those MS types being automatically generated. What you will do with those, like I did with mine. So let me go back to domains, and let me go back to my genuine domain, which is ppis4live.com. I've placed those references inside my DNS server. So as you can see it here. Why is this needed? Well, because when you issue a request, it will first hit the DNS, and then the DNS will redirect to your actual hosting server, which in this case is DigitalOcean. So after that, you want to add two additional records, which is your domain name, and you want to associate it with your droplet. Then create a record, and then you want to add the www So you can see the output. So when someone types in www.ppsforlife.com, he wants to see the web page. So always click in the correct droplet here. Now we're going to create this record, and now we want to SSH to our server. We want to go to the Nginx conf file, which sits again in the sites available directory. And when I open the default file, you will see that I've added, next to the server name keyword, I've added both my domains. So the one without www and the one with www. Once the records get updated on the DigitalOcean server, you should be able to navigate to those domains. So let's see. I'll just type in ppsforlife.com, but with the HTTPS. And as you can see, our site will certbot to allow to have HTTPS enabled on our website. So we're going to ask ChatGPT install certbot for HTTPS on Linux Ubuntu for Nginx. And we also want to check how our config file looks like. So as you can see, there is no HTTPS configured yet, but that will get configured after we run those commands. So first we're going to run this command, then the PPA one, then we want to make an update on the APT. Now we want to install the Python 3 certbot Nginx. Just click OK if this purple window pops up. And now let's obtain the certificates. Specify your email address. Mine is first name, last name, Gmail. Just type in yes, again yes. And which names would you like to activate for HTTPS? Well, basically we want both of them. So you're just gonna insert 1 and 2, followed by a comma. So the most important step is requesting a certificate. And the certificate has been successfully deployed, as we can see. Let's check our default Nginx file now. And now you can see that the HTTPS configuration lines have indeed been appended to the Nginx default configuration file. Now let's see if we can access the domain via HTTPS. And as you can see, we are successfully logged in now.